Clips. Remember, citizens, always subscribe and hit the bell. Ding, everything will be well. Alrighty, BoobTubes, another one of Kip's Clips. So I don't know if you've heard the most recent news about the Huawei 5G network, especially here in the UK. And I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. I told you this is exactly what the UK was going to do. It was going to let Huawei install a lot of their technology here in their network and then tell them to piss off. And that's exactly what has happened. Now, so I'm here to tell you I told you so about what the UK government, the deep state, would do with Huawei. And I also want to talk about Huawei and the 5G fear that's been propagated predominantly in the alternative media, and how that is the key to understanding who the Truther Industrial Complex is and who they're running information warfare for. And to me, it's amazing when you do the sums yourself. You show people the workings over years, and then the conclusion is as you called it. It gives you courage in your convictions rather than going around and using a calculator and just calling out what's on the calculator and going, see, the calculator was right. So, if you've not heard, UK's now kicking out Huawei from its network. Huawei is code for the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. I think it's code. So, now, if you go and trace back the genesis of where I believe the 5G fear campaign propagated in the alternative media as a result of an information warfare campaign against the CCP and Huawei. And the best way to demonise them is with the technology that they're leaps and bounds and years ahead of the West with, and who they're ready to roll out in the West. Now, let's just go and have a wee shifty. So Huawei in the UK, what will the government do? Right, that. Let me go back to something. Oh God, where was it? Right. Here was a video. Does this have the date on it? I don't know. Anyway, a woman was sectioned over the 5G conspiracy thanks to the Truther Industrial Complex cult. This was in 2018. Let me show you. It's a funny wee thumbnail as well. What's the date on that? September 2018, right? Nearly 2 years ago. Nearly 2 full years ago. And this was after one of the main shells or useful idiots in the Truther Industrial Complex, Max Egan, came back from Anarchapulco after yet protesting for about 3 years that he's stopping touring the world because it's so tiring, while continuously touring the world on other people's money, talking pish. So, but this year, he came back with the epiphany from Anarchapulco, the Truther paradise, that 5G was the next war front. And he was the genesis that I could tell in the whole English-speaking Truther Industrial Complex controlled network, alternative media. He was the first person to start parroting the fear in and around 5G as it being some sort of a direct energy weapon. No proof, no rhyme, no reason, just a lot of unknowns and conjecture and bullshit. Right, that's the reality. That's how I could call it, bullshit for day dot. This woman was going in and getting sectioned. Well, actually, the white men from White Coat turned up at her front door, because she was hearing a buzzing in her head from a 5G network that didn't exist. There was no 5G network in her area. There was normal mobile phone masts. She'd listened to Max Egan or somebody, got so para out her tits, next thing she's in the hospital saying she can hear things in her head. And it literally led to the get men in white coat literally turning up at her front door. Then Richie Allen got her on his show and humouring this 5G fear. I'm not taking a turn. I'm just doing my job. I'm just reporting the innocent. Without pointing out, the 5G fear is a hoax. It's a pile of shite. There's no evidence of 5G being any more adversely fucking negative to the human species than 4G. All the stuff that I can hear people jumping up and down and going, I've seen this on YouTube and a guy in a white coat, is a pile of shite and conjecture by fucking shills. And if you go and do your due diligence and listen to both sides instead of just one small narrative parody to you through the lens of Max Egan, Richie Allen, and the whole Truth Industrial Complex, you might see a bit clearly about what 5G is and isn't, instead of the paranoid delusion narrative spun to a lot of hundreds of thousands, millions of people through this Truth Industrial Complex online, which, if you objectively look at what's genuinely really happening in the world, is becoming blatantly obvious where this whole fear about 5G being some sort of direct energy weapon. And how quickly people forget. Can nobody remember the tripe Max Egan was saying about this shit? It's the part of internet things that go in and start controlling you. In fact, it wasn't that long ago that he was fucking inferring that he had some sort of a beam put into his head that controlled him. Let's not forget that. So there was 2 years ago, I was calling piss on this. And do you know why I was calling piss on this? Because I wasn't getting... Let me see if I can... Where was the research I done? Right, these are the most recent ones. I think it was this one, actually. Right. I was just looking for articles that I was reading from the year 2010 to 2018. These were articles that I was reading and considering and objectively looking at while listening to Max Egan and the rest of those gremlins in the Truth Industrial Complex talk absolute pish about 5G, because like when you looked into the fear-mongering around it, it was no more based in reality than fake snow, Nibiru, and all the other bullshit things that people who can cleverly word things can project into your head, like Max Egan. Anyway, so let's just look at the dates on some of these. So, I wasn't a clairvoyant 2 years ago when I was pointing at Richie Allen, propagating this 5G fear. Because the angle Richie Allen was having was, the state's hiding something about 5G because this woman went in with genuine concerns and ended up getting the mental health team at her door. No, it's because she was hearing shit in her head that wasn't there. She's talking about 5G stuff that wasn't there. Anyway, there's like more boomproof evidence of how ball deep Richie Allen is with this whole bullshit set up independent media tripe that people still like to buy into for some reason, when it's so obvious it's just the information war branch of the Five Eyes, right? So this Five Eyes, if you don't know who the Five Eyes are the listening arm of the Western military-industrial complex. Basically, the winners from World War II put all their intelligence shit together, and if you go and look where they're Australia, New Zealand, America, Britain and Canada, right? They're at what do you call them? Bottlenecks. They're at bottlenecks of transatlantic and Pacific communications, right? Which basically mean they had if that doesn't make sense to you, I'm talking about old-fashioned phone lines that used to go under the sea and stuff, and all the communication lines, those bottlenecks. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and I'll leave your ignorance on that. Make some more sense of how strategically placed around the world they are. And they were gobbling up quite a lot of the world's communications, if not all. Then when they went into satellite communications and stuff, they were leaps and bounds ahead of most of the world. Up until this point, where Huawei has now surpassed the West in 5G technology to the point that they're ready to roll this out en masse worldwide. And the Five Eyes are scared, because it then stops their monopoly or their lead in the ability to listen to the world, which means that their monopoly on intelligence or their soft power is getting challenged. And that is where the reason to demonise Huawei and 5G came about. and the reason to demonize, and that's the reason for demonizing Huawei and 5G, and Max Egan and the rest of his minions and gremlins in the Truther Industrial Complex out there have no idea about any of the technology in and around 5G, but parroting all the paranoid delusional fear about it. That's they're part of this psyop. I'm going to steal a Truther Industrial Complex meme. They're part of this game to demonize Five Eyes. And look here, like this again. I'm not a clairvoyant or anything. I got this from objectively looking at information from as many angles as I can, and not thinking the TV lies to me, but the internet doesn't, or not thinking the internet lies to me and the TV doesn't, and all the other different medias. I objectively look at it all and try and trace the money and the power and the editors and the trusts behind the papers and the media groups and stuff, and try and piece it all together and objectively look at it. And through objectively looking at it, I didn't get bunked. I wasn't walking about putting paranoid delusions of fear about 5G. I don't blindly believe anything Max Egan says because he's so full of shit. If he's not getting caught stealing money or he's dicking a nice hottie from an island, then he's telling you his name isn't Max Egan and he gets struck with direct energy weapons and he was the genesis for the Five Eyes want. How the Five Eyes, I agree with this analysis. I came to the similar conclusion myself as to whoever wrote the Sydney Morning Herald. Right? And see, when you objectively come to a conclusion and you see other people sharing that, it's again, it gives you courage in your conclusions because you're not the only one seeing what you're seeing. Whereas, unfortunately, and I know people don't like, it's hard to admit, but all you get in alternative media and the mainstream media, which isn't the mainstream anymore, is just rhyming and repeating and parroting. And no real objective analysis of the stuff. Because if anybody in the Truther Industrial Complex objectively analysed the 5G fear, number one, you would never come to the conclusion that it was any more harmful to humans than 4G or 3G or 2G or 1G or the telephone lines. I'm exaggerating a wee bit, but you would have known that the fear that was managed to conjure in your head was a load of shite. So I want to tell you, I told you so about the UK taking in Huawei's technology and going, cheerio, copied it all and then told them to fuck off. Thank you, China. And to understand who the Truther Industrial Complex is, look at their shared look at their shared information war to kill 5G and Huawei through bullcrap, absolute bullcrap. I mean, it boils down to the Five Eyes don't want China having listening or spying abilities in the West, which makes sense to me, you know. If you get that makes more sense to me than the bullcrap Max Egan and his gremlins say. So there's New Zealand, other Five Eye partners met before Huawei. I mean, look at the dates on here. There was one for 2016, I do believe. Or was I daydreaming? No. 2016. So see, people, this is what I'm going to argue, right? People that weren't polarised with one type of media, like myself, you don't just listen to the internet, go, you listen to the TV, listen to everything, you read as much as you can, and you trace where it's coming from. Because do you know a lot of this media on the internet comes from the same sources as the shit in the TV? Fucking genre Polton. I'm saying the Truther Industrial Complex is the Western military industrial complex information war online. And then you wonder why you've got the likes of ex-MI5, ex-GCHQ, ex-Navy, ex-Orange Order, all sitting on the fucking, in the independent media. They all just happened to know each other before they all became independent journalists. Oh, the independent media in the UK is the biggest fucking laugh. You trace it back to like fucking David Icke. David Icke and his little bunch of cronies, that's it. Anybody out with that cabal, you don't suck the dick of David Icke. You're nowhere in the alternative media. You're not allowed in the group. And that's a reality. Well, I don't know. People are still in this delusion that the alternative media is like a bunch of like wee independent people bouncing about. It's one big controlled cabal. Look at the shit with John Wedger, Brian Harvey, all that shit. It all goes back to arseholes sitting in press rooms, newspapers, sitting reporting, ex-cops, ex-MI5, ex-GCHQ. Aye, Governor, I just retired from GCHQ. Now I'm a freedom fighter on the internet. Aye, that's exactly what I want to do when I retire from GCHQ. Anyway, so this to me is brilliant. You know, to others, just me rambling shit, but like the writing's on the wall here. If you piece it all together, right? I ain't lying about the bullshit that came out from the Truth Industrial Complex alternative media about the 5G fear that was a pile of shite. Absolute pile of it was fake snow, Nibiru, fucking Y2K shite to have you controlled with fear. And the result? Well, Bobo Johnson now thrown out Huawei from the Western world, and it isn't only the UK that Huawei's get flung out of, by the way. It's pretty much all the 5G nation, all the Five Eyes nations, and all the nations that fall under the protection of the Five Eyes. You know, the petrodollar protection racket and all that shit. You know, the one that Donald Trump's out there trying to propagate. Keep going. Anyway, don't worry, man. Don't masks, Antifa. Some real shit happening in the world, man. You know, the tides are changing. Everybody's like get their panties in a bunch about some weird ass bullshit. Anyway, 17 minutes. So hopefully you can see there's a wee journey through my story of Five Eyes fear as I seen it. Let's see, I even said some ones over here. Screen within the screen, I can't read. The great 5G campaign. I mean, I can't imagine. Who done that? It makes so much sense. Any economic or geopolitical reasons for the fear, right? And then, like, for some reason, you're pointing out to that a bunch of like people cowering round a 5G handset, thinking it's going to kill them, going, and they're in. The fear's not real, and you're pointing out, you know, you're fucking cowering in fear over something that isn't really that scary, or it's certainly not scary as you've been told, and it's all because these guys over here, aka the Five Eyes, don't want Huawei and 5G listening in on our network. It's nothing to do with the technologies I'm going to kill you or brain control you or anything like that. It's our intelligence services don't want foreign intelligence services getting their technology in our infrastructure. And in the pursuit of our intelligence services wanting that, they've turned people into, they've propagated paranoid delusions through their information warfare branches online to the extent where poor women, if I can find it, are getting locked up. 2 years ago. And not only is she getting locked up for hearing 5G radio waves in her head that aren't there, she's then getting paraded on the Ricky Allen show as some sort of a proof evidence that the UK government is hiding the 5G fear because it's the Internet of Things direct energy weapons going to control you. Pish. I don't even know how they spun the narrative together. It was bizarro. Like, it was like listening to David Icke. You know, 6 hours of shite. Not fucking, there's not one sentence that makes cognitive sense. It's jibber jabber bullshit. Like with a couple of self-help books that make you feel good about yourself. Think of a pond. Think of you floating in a pond. Think of that pond as your mum's womb. Think of it being warm. Aye, but what are you actually saying, man? You're just making me go, I'm not actually fucking saying anything. And they never do. They make you feel good, then fear. Fear. This is how you relieve that fear. Boner pills and voting for Trump. Anyway, so there's a wee journey over 2 years plus. I've been calling this 5G fear shit. I haven't heard one person. I journey around the YouTubes quite a lot. I haven't heard one other person out there hitting home this link between the Truth or Industrial Complex, the alternative media, parroting absolute pish. I mean, absolute laughable pish. Nibiru times 100 pish. Anybody with 3 brain cells knows it's a pile of shite, right? And nobody's questioning the link between the Five Eyes wanting to bring down the same people. Nobody's questioning that. Nobody thinks the Five Eyes were sitting there going like that, right? We need to get ahead of the game in this internet. The internet's going to influence people more than the TV in the future, and we've already reached that place, folks. Don't know if you know this. The internet has more control over me and you than the TV does. But the internet will still tell you TV because it wants you. Oh, the internet interacts with me. It's real. Yeah. Anyway, so hopefully you've enjoyed that wee rant about the 5G fear. And remember, folks, I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. We sucked in the technology, copied it all. See you later, Huawei. Now we're getting rid of Huawei from all the places of the world that we, the Western military powers, rule with soft power and protection racket. And that's what that's if you want to understand who the Truth or Industrial Complex is, and the reason for being, and how they genuinely influence people in world politics. Look at Trump getting elected, look at Brexit, and look what's happened with Huawei and the 5G networks just getting tossed out all the Western countries. So it works. Anyway, thumbs it up, share it, Facebook, Twitter, all the good stuff. Remember what I do here is digital busking. It's all available and accessible, free of charge. I'm going to do such a good job you'll find value in what I do and use your spare change, not your life savings in the Patreon and PayPal buttons down below. And a mega thanks to those who do. Alrighty, boob tubes, have a good June. Catchies!
Clips, clips.
Remember, citizens, subscribe, hit the bell. You shall be well in hell.